Good evening, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for coming to the TPR comedy Creekside and Conversation. It's the inaugural Creekside Conversation comedy show that we've had here at TPR. It's the first all-Latino comedy show that we've had here at TPR. Yeah, give it a round of applause. I'm Marian Navarro. I'm a producer here at TPR. I work with Norma Martinez on Fronteras and Morning Edition, and I'm going to be moderating this panel today. So we want this to be as interactive as possible. If any of you guys have any questions, comments for any of our panelists on comedy, Latinos in comedy, anything like that, we do have 2 mics set up on the left and the right. So please feel free to just go up to the mic and we will get to your question and your comment. So I'll go ahead and get started. I'll have each of the panelists introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about how you got started in comedy. So Raul, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Name's Raul Sanchez. I started comedy after I got out of the Army. I used to get like anxiety, I guess, and I would like just drive around to like calm it. And then one time I saw there was a sign that said the Laugh Out Loud Comedy Club. And I was like, I think I could use a laugh, right? And I went there, and it happened to be the open mic night, and I just sat in the back and watched the whole like 3-hour thing of like just people doing okay or really well or just bombing for the most part, and I was fascinated by it. And I was like, I got to come back next week and do this, and I just wrote stuff for that whole week, and the next Tuesday I went back. And I tried it for the first time, and I didn't stop ever since. That's about it. Yeah.
Vanessa?
I'm Vanessa Gonzalez. Thank you. One of my family's here. I started performing. I went to Texas State. Go Bobcats. Yeah, eat them out. And I got a theater degree, which y'all didn't care about. And then after I graduated, I moved to Austin, and I dived into the comedy scene there. I Googled like sketch comedy, and I found the Latino Comedy Project, and I started with them in sketch comedy. And then from there, I went to improv. And then I finally got the guts to do stand-up about 9 years ago. But I've been at it for 15 years now.
Hi. I'm Tori Pool. Thank you. I've been doing comedy. It'll be 6 years in June. I always wanted to do comedy. Like at a young age, I would like act out. I would impersonate comedians for my mom and her drunk friends, and I just always really liked it, but I was really afraid of what I would say, you know. So about 6 years ago, I went to Laugh Out Loud. That was the first mic I did, and I looked around and I was like, "Yo, it's a sausage fest." So I decided that day that I got up. I was like one of the last people. I said some embarrassing things about my son, and yeah, I couldn't stop after that. I liked the way it felt, and yeah, I never looked back. So,
Tori, kind of going based off of what you said, comedy is like every other kind of aspect of media, whether it's film, TV, production, where there is a lack of representation. It's mainly white, male-dominated. And there are still Latinos trying to find their space in comedies. So, Tori, we can start with you. What is it like trying to find your space in an area that's still trying to make space for Latino comedians, female or male comedians?
It's interesting because I feel like I have like 2 strikes against me. Like I'm a woman-ish, and like I'm brown, and I feel like at first, I just like spaces that aren't meant for me. That's why I like yoga. I don't feel like it's meant for me. I'm just like, oh yeah, chin to chest. Let's see if I survive. That was a really driving force. Like for me, when I went, there was not one other woman, and Raul can probably remember this. Like 6 years ago, there was not one woman, and I thought, okay, I felt like a sense of like urgency to fill that role, and it's been difficult more so on that aspect of being a woman than Latino for me. I've been really lucky to work with some strong women, like Vanessa and Cristela, and all the other brown boys or whatever. But I've had some good opportunities, and I think it's just my tenacity and my stubbornness. And I think that if I continue trying, even if I fail, that it's worth it, So I just want to keep doing it. But yeah, I wish there was more women in San Antonio and more brown people, because it is a lot of white men. White men have a lot to say, and they stay saying it. Yeah.
Vanessa, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Tori, I started in groups, sketch groups, improv groups, and I was always intimidated by stand-up because it was very male-dominated, and I didn't see anybody that looked like me or that was from where I'm from that was doing it. So when I jumped in, I started, producing my own shows, and I started booking spaces and booking myself to headline because no one else would book me, so I felt like I always had to show them. And then once they saw, then that's when the opportunities started coming. But even at this point in my career, I feel like I always have to show them first, and then they believe me, and then they start booking me. But I have, throughout my career in comedy, been so supported by other women comedians, which has been so great here in Texas. I moved to LA for 2 years, and the women there, it's like, I think we're just like trauma bonded for doing this. So they're always like, hey, you're in here, come on, we'll tell you all the bullshit we're gonna go through, and don't talk to them, and he sucks and all that stuff. So I feel like just being supported by women has really helped me this whole time.
Raul, as the only male in this panelist.
Get him.
Wait, what was the question again?
He fell asleep.
So what's it like being Latino in comedy in a space where there's still kind of underrepresentation from Latinos?
I don't know. I guess all I could see when I started doing stand-up was, first of all, I don't see race. But first of all, did I see mental illness? And I just wanted to be included in the mental illness community of people who had nothing else to do. I guess when I started, it was a Wild West. It just seemed like there was everyone from people that were trying to make it to people that were just like literally got off the street and just signed their name up and just went up there and just said the wildest things. We were like, oh my God, like I'm in the same group of people. Like I'm in the same, so I guess to me it's different because, like, I guess being in the Army, you see all kinds of like crazy human beings, like nice human beings, awful, beautiful human beings. Like so to me, it was just what stood out more was just a lot of wounded souls doing stand-up. And I just wanted to be one of the ones that was funny. And yeah, so to me, I mean, I guess the Hispanic part, I don't know, man. I always felt like, like being brought here from 7, it was like there's Mexican Americans, there's Mexicans, and then there's those of us who came here, and it's like a different culture being like an immigrant, and you don't belong to either side, or you feel like you don't belong to the Mexican Americans and you don't belong to the Mexicans because it's been years. Mexicans could tell I have an American-ish accent, and Americans think I have a Mexican accent. So it always just felt like, like I had to prove something to everyone, not just race or gender. It was like I want to stand out amongst all these other weirdos.
And something that you mentioned in your comedy, Raul, and your stand-up, and something that we had kind of talked about in this pre-Zoom conversation that we had last week on this, was that Latino is kind of one term, right? And
Sure.
it's all encompassing one experience, but that's not always the case. There are cases of, for us, it's Mexican American here in Texas, but there's also, like you said, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and everybody has different experiences. So I'll ask you, Vanessa, how do you use your experiences as a Mexican American woman here in Texas, and how does that influence your comedy and your sets?
Well, I mean, I just make fun of my parents for the most part. That's how I use it. Yeah, I feel like at first, I think for any comic, you try to find your voice and like, what do I want to talk about? What is going to resonate? It's different for everybody. And for me, I just, grew up making fun of my parents all the time, and that just sticks. The people love it. That's how I use it. And I feel like just being vulnerable, being honest, and finding like people that relate. Like I've had, I talk about my mom a lot, and I have had people from like all types of like races or background being like, my mom's like that too. She's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, we all got a crazy mom. And so that's what I've just used, being from Laredo. That's a specific culture in its own. Like I feel like Laredo is very specific. The way we talk shit, the way we look. So I used to feel like, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know how to talk about this, but now I use it to like stand out, and the things that I've been through and like how I grew up. And so, yeah, I feel like I don't stray away from anything. I make fun of everybody in my family now. My nephew's next. And I'm lucky that they're very supportive.
Raul, Tori, anything to add?
I don't know. When I first started, I was teaching. I was a teacher. So thank you, two people. Okay, that was a forced applause. Yeah, I was a teacher, and I was really unhappy as a teacher. I just saw a lot of things that I didn't like. So that was what I would write about at first, was just, all this commentary on teaching. And then my principal was like, yo, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, the watchel, I just left. I left teaching, and that surprised everybody. And then I really enjoyed, because of that experience, I've always sort of stayed away from like my day job, with the exception of a few jokes. But I write about experience. Like I write about dating. I write about my family. I think that no one else has that. They may have similar situations, but my take on it, I feel like it's safe. So I tend to write a lot about my experiences in my household and all that good stuff. But yeah, it did definitely change. And I wish I could be one of those comedians that could tell you exactly how I think about everything, but you might not like me. So yeah.
Raul?
Where we draw writing from?
Yeah, what do you... How do you use your experiences to kind of influence your comedy and your sets? Or do you use your experiences, I guess?
I like mean stuff. I like... yeah, like... damn, what... I guess, when like my family make fun of me, right? Like that's how we grew up. Like we just talk smack about each other. So like that's what I grew up with. Like you find a flaw in somebody and you go, "Hey, look at that." And it doesn't necessarily have to apply to a person. It could also apply to a system. But it's I like something with fangs. Like. I like when there's a lot of people laughing and there's one person just like, it fills me with joy somewhere inside. I'm like, good. But at the end of the day, at least 51 out of 100 laughing,
A reminder again, if any of you guys have any questions, any comments for any of our panelists, you can go up to the mics and we will get to your questions. So kind of going off of that, Raul, I'm curious, how do you guys deal with hecklers or with somebody in the audience that maybe doesn't like the comedy as much, or maybe says something, or that one person that is not laughing throughout, anything like that? What's been your experience with that, and how do you deal with that at your comedy shows?
I mostly, I really do ignore it because I don't have, there's some people that have this gift to just talk to the audience and be funny. And I always, like, when I see that, it's like a magic trick to me, because I don't really like talking to people for the most part. So when somebody goes like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, right. And I just keep going and just get closer to the mic so that I can drown them out a little bit. Because I've tried addressing stuff and it's not fun. I'm just mean. Like, it doesn't. I need time to sit down and write. Like, okay, how can I make his big head funny? And it's like I can't do it right off the top. Like, it's the only time where I feel zen. Like, nothing comes to my head. It's just blank. So I usually try to avoid talking to hecklers.
I slash their tires after the show. Yeah. No, I feel similar to Raul. I feel like in the beginning, I would get, I don't understand why people come to a show and they think like we want to hear you talk to us. We don't. And it fucking pisses me off. It's so fucking annoying. And it's so crazy. I'm like, how do you not understand that? So I would get mad at first, but I think like more and more I've tried to like, okay, well, let's talk. But sometimes it's like, it's the people that aren't reading the room, they're usually just like weird psycho people. So I think it is also best to just ignore them if you can.
So I would say my first 2 years in comedy, I kind of I got scared, like it would throw me off. Because my first 2 years, I was always like in my head and thinking about the next thing that I was going to say. And like my material wasn't really there. But I was a teacher. Like, I'm used to like dumbasses talking out of turn. So I sort of like at first I would take some of those like teaching, like I've done it before, like in different, it depends on it depends on the room. Okay. So like if it was a room like this and like you guys were talking, you silver alerts right here that are very adorable. I love you guys. I'm going to steal you. But like if you were talking, I would do spatial awareness. Like like I would just get really close and be like, I'll wait. I've done that at shows and I address it. Like I'm all for it. Like if you want to talk, all right, let's hear what you have to say. And I find that when I give that attention, there was this comic, J.F. Harris, that I worked with one time, and he was like, dude, if they're going to talk, just give them enough time and wait time. Hello, teacher. And they'll say something funny or it'll fizzle, and that's funny. You can make fun of them. And so I kind of do that. If nothing funny comes, and I'm like, all right, well, okay, give it up for my mom. Or, I do like talking to hecklers. Let's go. Let's fine. Love a confrontation.
Yes, ma'am. What's your name and what's your question?
My name's Michelle, and I was wondering, when you write your material for the shows, I mean, you deliver it so seamlessly, and I mean, how do you do that without memorizing it, or do you memorize it? Tell us about the creative process.
You want me to go? Okay. So I have a weird thing where I overwrite a topic really badly. Like I'll come up with a premise and then I'll just write it until it's gross. It's like pages, and then I'll go and I'll like wipe out things that I don't like. I really like to take details out. And then I go to a mic and then I try practicing just saying it in how I think, set up and punch or story, whatever drives my point home. I sort of play around with that. But For me, it's overwriting and then stripping it away, and trying to find the funny. Like, I'm always looking for the funny. Sometimes when I should be doing other things, I like to find what's funny and not make it relatable, but make it sound like me, if that makes sense.
I definitely memorize the material. I think for me it evolves. Like, if I'll have a topic, I'm like, oh, I want to make this a joke. I just kind of make bullet points and then flesh it out on stage. And then the more every show that I keep doing it, I find more punchlines or some that don't work, and then just kind of go from there. But I feel like to keep it fresh for me, like, I get kind of bored saying the same thing exactly every time, so I like to throw in like something new each time, or being in the moment and present, see what comes.
I agree with that. Like, I always have to have like something new in the set, because like there's a thing in stand-up, it's the illusion of spontaneity. It's a magic trick. Of course, I thought of this, but sometimes it seems like I'm or at least the goal is to make it seem like it's off the top. I'm just thinking right now, and I'm just saying wild stuff, right? And what having new material adds that little, what I'm doing, right, the stutter of like what comes next. It's because I really am. This is so brand new. I'm wait, what was next? So that gives it like this nice little seasoning that makes it seem like, I think this guy's just thinking it up right now. Well, I'm trying to remember how this thing goes. So yeah, that's always new material is always what makes the set feel really nice and off the top of the head, or the illusion of it at least.
I will add one thing. I'm kind of weird. I record all of my sets. Like, even today, I recorded, in my pocket. I have like over 900 recordings on my phone, which my phone keeps saying it can't update or whatever. But I record, and I also am pretty cringy, and I listen back. I listen for the laugh, and then I'm like, okay, well, that worked that time. Maybe keep that line. It's the playback that's the worst for me, but I enjoy it because it's a part of the writing process. It's like revising and editing.
We have another question. Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Hey, my name's Erica, and I had another question prepared, but I feel like y'all already covered it. But I would like to know maybe a little more in detail how you've overcome maybe some challenges or insecurities in being brown and being female and being in this industry.
Damn, I'm about to throw somebody under the bus. I've had a lot of weird things happen, like obstacles. It's always a dude, it's always a dude that tries to tell me how I should be. I was up for some festivals here in town, and the producer or whatever pulled me aside one day, and he was like, I can make you 40% funnier if you just come to my house.
Gross.
Yeah, and I was like, I think you mean your penis. And it was like little things like that. Like, always some machismo dude or whatever that would, try to say that I shouldn't talk about being Mexican because I didn't want to be pigeonholed or whatever into that category. It's like, do you want to be the Latino comic? And I've had, white males do that too, or guys tell me, club managers tell me that I need to like flirt with the audience so that they'll laugh. Find the dude that's alone and give eyes at him. And I'm like, why? I don't get it. So it's been weird, and it did definitely affect me, and it made me sort of closed off from mics for a little while. Like, I wouldn't like going because dudes would just, they'd like hit on you or just be like super weird and, like try to follow you to your car and stupid shit like that. But I kind of have like a rough exterior, even at mics and shows and like with people. I kind of like wait for them to show themselves to me. And I feel like I'm always on guard. But it's been good, it's been good to learn that, you're going to encounter, like Raul said, people from all walks of life. some people will go to a mic and then the next day their profession is changed to comedian. Like it happens like that. Like and for me, I'm just like I just kind of like keep to myself and just try to remember that I do it for that feeling, like right after you get off stage where you either know that you did terrible or you know that you did well, and sometimes you can't tell, but I do it for that feeling.
Yeah, I feel like for me, doing comedy, it's a boys' club. There's a lot of negativity. It's competition. People talk shit. But I found early on that like the people that talk shit don't do anything. Like they never get anywhere. And so like they're always just focused on other people and what they're doing and why they don't have it and being mad. So I feel like for me now, I just focus on me and, like I said, booking myself. If the opportunities aren't coming or they don't want to give them to me, then I find a way to make the opportunity for myself and bring people with me, because the people that are being shitty, I'm like, okay, see you back there then.
Stuff that I had to work through was social anxiety, like getting in front of people. I remember when I first started, I used to do just one-liner jokes because I wanted to get the feedback as soon as possible, and I wouldn't look at the audience, kind of like I'm doing right now. And I would get on stage and I wouldn't look. I would just look down and I would say my joke and wait to hear how it went. To the point where people were like, "Hey, you like that Mitch Hedberg, right? Like, you're a real big fan of him." And I was like, I know who he is, but I'm really, like, I would have this anxiety that I couldn't get over. That's where it's kind of a blessing to be dumb, because, like, when I was in the Army, I remember we used to jump out of airplanes, airborne infantry, and we would be sitting in the airplane, and when they would open the doors for everybody to jump out, you could hear the wind, like, and I used to think, oh man, it gets really cold when they open the doors, because my knee would start doing this, but I would just, I guess it's just really cold. But then when I started noticing, before I would go on stage, when I first started, I would notice my knee start doing the same thing. I was like, man, it gets cold here too? That's crazy. Right? But I was too stupid to realize, because I'm nervous. I'm afraid to get on stage. But it wasn't until like years later I was like, I was nervous the whole time, wasn't I? Damn. But yeah, that was something that I definitely dealing with, social anxiety. I guess
get
found
nervous.
through it.
Oh yeah, I get nervous too still.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to jump out of a plane though.
Yeah. Now I just get hammered before a show.
Yeah, I get super nervous. It depends. If it's like, if I can see you, I get real nervous because like I can see your disappointment, But yeah.
We'll get to your question in one bit. I just have a question. So you guys are all Texas-based Latinos, or Texas-based comedians, excuse me. Do you guys see a difference in giving a show like here in San Antonio versus giving a show somewhere else in Texas? Or I know, Vanessa, you're touring with Chelsea Handler right now, so you're going everywhere. Yeah, woo! That's a good. So, what's the difference in giving a show here in San Antonio versus giving a show maybe somewhere else?
Oh, I mean, I feel like because I'm from here, like I feel like San Antonio, Austin, Laredo, like they laugh the loudest at my stuff because it just hits harder. They get it, they know it, they feel it. They're like, yes, me too, bitch. So yeah, sometimes like, I'm lucky that as I tour, people receive me and like laugh also, but it's just different when people are like, I've definitely been in your shoes, as opposed to, oh, here's a new perspective. Let me hear this chubby brown girl talk. Okay, skinny, okay.
So I feel like Dallas, the whites love me. Austin, they want to adopt me. San Antonio loves me. I actually went up in Paris one time to an English mic, and but there were a lot of like English people there, so I still have the audio. I'm doing an English accent. It's pretty weird to hear me talk about Mexican stuff and be like Cheerio. But I couldn't help it because everybody had an accent, so I'm like a mimicker. And I've gone up in Boston, and I did a Boston accent. I don't know. I guess I just do. I adapt. I don't know. But yeah, I haven't run into like any, is that my airplane? I haven't run into anything pretty bad. People seem to be pretty receptive.
Yeah, I always, at least when I started, I'm not so sure how it is now, but when I first started, San Antonio, at least in the club, it seemed like the audience was more like make me laugh, like Dance Monkey. And in Austin, they were like, oh, we're here to support the arts. And it was like they were more lenient towards to like being creative, like we love you, like so good for you. And in San Antonio, they'd be like, yeah, what else? But I think that helped me at least because it would help me like try to craft a joke where I was like, I want to say something, but I also want to make people laugh. And, that's why I was trying to like, okay, I want to say something about the government, but I guess I got to mix it in with my dick somehow. And I think if I can just reach somebody.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Beth. Vanessa, do you have a boyfriend?
I do. I do. Sorry.
No, you all just sort of got to motivation. Like, that was my question. What's the motivation? Like, you said you want people to laugh. You said, like, that feeling at the end. Like, you do this so brave to get up there and do it yourself. So it's got to be internal motivation. What do you want us to do? You have an hour of fun, think about you later? Like, what's that mix of motivation that makes you do this?
Support. We need to be supported. I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in here. I really think it's just so hard, it's hard to do what we do, and without support, we're nobody. And it doesn't have to be going to every show. Support comes in different ways. But I would just say that, know that there is talent in Texas, and, I produce shows. Thank you. I'm constantly looking for the next thing, and part of my weird goal is to make San Antonio cool. And so that's how I approach everything. I'm trying to think of like what I want to see, but yeah, support. If you can share a flyer or follow us on social media or tell a friend about your experience, that all goes so far. The other day, somebody sent me a DM just 2 days ago, and he had done open mic comedy like maybe twice, and I just barely knew him, but he was like, hey, my brother moved to Dallas, and he sent me this, and they sent a screenshot, and it was like, do you know Tori Pool? And I was like, hell yeah. Yeah, support.
I do it for the money. Yeah, that's my motivation. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, that's nice. But no, I think it's also like, yeah, I would love to like inspire more people, or, people that look like me to do this. I talk a lot about how I'm not scared of my parents, and I'm like, stop being scared of your parents. That's my message. Like, y'all need to stop. They can't do anything to you anymore. Like, I know 40-year-olds, and they're like, stop saying that. And I'm like, be free, break free from them. So if I can like help people not be scared of their parents, that's cool too.
I'm an addict. I do it for the high, like that. I really do love that. Like especially in a big venue, like a big club or a theater, where you say a punchline and then everybody pops. Like it's like you can feel it in your chest. The I don't know, whatever drug is going through your brain, it just you feel it. There's nothing more than I love than having a good set and then walking off stage and going outside for a cigarette. Like it feels so good. It's like I used to freebase cocaine. I don't know if I told you guys that. And it's the same thing. You just finish that and you go like, God damn, this feels great. Like that's me, man. I'm an addict through and through.
I think I want money too, though. Just
to make that clear.
I do like money.
Well, in all of your stand-up sets, you guys have talked about this. You use your experiences. Your comedy and your stand-up is all very personal. You mentioned your parents, Vanessa, Tori, you mentioned your son, Raul, your girlfriend. How does your family react to these kind of sets? And what's their reaction initially, whether it's your parents or your extended family, your friends? What are those reactions like?
That's my only red line. Like, that's like... I'm not gonna stop. You're either part of my life or you're not. And
Boom.
At some point, you're gonna be on stage, or at least your character.
I mean, most of my family's here. Y'all okay with it? They love it. My mom's always like, talk about me more. I'm like, hi, calm down. And she's like, say you have a mom. I'm like, you just talk about the boyfriend.
Damn, you have a boyfriend?
I do.
How do I get one of those? It's okay, I'm fine. I'm very happy. Two things. So I talk a lot about my son. You guys got like maybe one joke about him, but I have a lot about him. And, I've been doing it 6 years. He just turned 16. And ew, right? And the first show he went to, because I'm a bad mom, I took him. He did not like me addressing his discovery of puberty on stage. I contend that joke fucking kills. But he did not appreciate it. And he was like, he had a moment where he was like, my friends see you on the TikTok. He probably didn't say the TikTok, and I was like, sorry. And, he's just like, can you just not do that joke? And then recently I opened for somebody, and Kathan came, and it was just a 2-man show. And he sat in the back, and I did a lot of his material. It was a lot of moms. And I crushed. It felt good. And when I got off stage, he was like, I think you're doing better than the headliner. And I was like, that's my boy. That's why I kept him. And then I talk a lot about my mom. You guys got to hear. My mom did pass. It'll be 4 years in September. And she saw me when I started, and when I first started, I made the mistake of inviting her to like the first show I ever got booked on, and I was filthy. It was gross. But she was like disgusted. She was like, Tori, yeah, she tells jokes, but it's not for everyone. And before one of the last shows that I did, I think Raul might have been on it. It was like at Brick, and my mom went, and I was a different comic, and she was just like, holy shit, that's pretty funny, And she had a lot of health problems, and so I cared for her toward the end, and there was some pretty gross shit that would happen. And she'd be like, you better not be writing this down. And she would get so mad. Like, she would have an embarrassing moment, and she'd be like, you better not. I know you're going to put this in your set. And one day, yeah. And one day she was like, you know what? You can write whatever you want, mija, because I had the last word.
And I mentioned this at the start. So this is the first time that TPR has had a comedy Creekside session. This is the first time we've had all Latino panel. So what is it like to be a part of an all Latino panel? Do you guys see a difference? Do you see what are your experiences with that? What do you feel coming out of this?
I think we've all been in a lot of all Latino shows. Yeah. They love them.
It's usually
putting us on them
at a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I feel like both ways about it. Like, I feel very proud to be up here with these guys in front of all of y'all. But in the beginning, where I was just like only getting booked on Latino, I'm like, do they let us on other shows? Are we segregated? Because sometimes it feels like, okay, y'all just do your shows over here, but I feel both. I'm very proud, but I'm also like, happy to be, on all types of shows.
I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I do feel like we're lumped and underrepresented. I wrote for this card game like 4 years ago called Latino Card Revoked. And it was weird because I got paired up with an Afro-Latino in Brooklyn. And then we were supposed to just cover all of Latino culture in 52 cards. And we fought a lot about so much of like what was, what's Mexican. And Tex-Mex is different from New York Mexicans and, even California. And a lot of the creative process, I was like, dude, we should just have like a Texas edition and the California edition. And we were fighting about it, but they were like, no, this is gold. And it wasn't, but I think I made like $2,000 on royalties. But where was I going with this? I just think that like I do the shows because, money's good. But I did feel scared that I would only be, at Las Chiladas, telling jokes. And there was like a moment of panic and it sort of kept me from writing about my experience for a while. And you know what? It's mine. And I am, Mexican, Peruvian, Spanish. I'm going to talk about all that and I'm going to have fun with it,
Yeah, I mean, it's like Vanessa said, that's the Latino shows. That's like a thing that's actually done quite a bit. Maybe not in the most ideal venues. Like this is some point where I was like, I gotta stop doing venues that end with the word grill. Like this is. But when I still had fun. It was like any other one. I guess I'm self-involved. I'm just like, I hope my set goes good. I don't know about everybody else.
I think we have one last question. What's your name and what's your question?
I'm sorry. I'm Erica, and I don't know if it's allowed, but I have 2 more questions, actually. That's
Please,
okay.
yes.
One, I'd like to know from Vanessa. So I was first introduced to you at a Chelsea Handley show at the Majestic. It was awesome. And how was it working with Chelsea, and how did she discover you? And then my question for all 3 of you is, what advice do you have to someone who is interested in getting into stand-up?
What it's like to work with Chelsea Handler. She has great weed. It's awesome. It's so cool. It's a dream come true, honestly. Like I've always wanted, to be on tour and getting to perform in front of like big theaters and stuff. I never thought that would happen, and now I have aspirations of like headlining my own like national theater tour, and I feel like because of her, I'm getting closer to getting that. And it was wild. She literally sent me a message on Instagram, and it was like, "Hi, I'm Chelsea Handler. I saw your Comedy Central special. Do you want to open for me?" And I was like, I don't even follow this bitch. It's awkward. And I was like, click the follow back. And yeah, honestly, like I didn't really know much about her before then, but getting to work with someone at her level so closely, ideally I would love to be at that level. So getting to see like someone and like getting advice from her, it's a dream come true.
Nice. I'm poor. It's fine. I'll find love and money. What advice? So I run or I help run a cooperative where we like write together. And I would say if you're interested in stand-up, get on stage. Go to a mic, go to several mics, let yourself be vulnerable, because I think a lot of people get in their heads about it. And I mean, I certainly did, especially those first 2 years. Like, you need to be on stage and you need to see how it feels and figure out your anxiety. Like Raul said, like, I still think about like how in my head I was and like shaking and like, oh, like you hear those first sets, I'll play them right now. But I'm just like, my voice has like a treble in it. And I was afraid of like taking breaths. I'm like, so it's like, and I'm like, just very gross. But yeah, go to mics, write things down, try to work on your first 5, repeat, rinse and repeat, rewrite, edit. I can't stress enough that stand-up for me is the writing process itself. Maybe that's because I taught English for so long. I just feel like it's rinse and repeat and try again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, there's no other way to find out than to find out. You have to basically put your back against the wall. And because when I first signed up, I remember I was incredibly nervous. Where I was in line for where everybody was signing their name, and part of me was going, just leave, man, just leave, just leave. And then I wrote my name down. It was something about writing my name down, where I was like, it's too late. Now I gotta stay. It was like this, like, you're gonna be a coward, like. But there was also that, that devil was like, nobody knows who you are. You can just leave and nobody would care. It feels so good. But it was just like the principle of the thing. I signed my name and there was no turning back. And like I told you guys, I went to go see. The first time I went to go see an open mic, and I sat through the whole thing. And there was some guys that were really good where I was like, geez, I can't do that. But there was guys that were so awful that I was like, oh, I can definitely do this. And it's encouraging when you just go and sit there and just watch the whole thing. There is a little bit, when you see like the really bad ones, you're like, I'm not that bad. And I would say, go home and write for a whole week. No more than that, because then you can just keep pushing it. And you're like, oh, maybe next week. But just go like, okay, 1 week. And then you make yourself write, and then sign your name, and then just, that's it. Your back's against the wall, and now you got to go do, and whatever happens, happens. And then who knows, a story could start after that.
Yeah, I agree. You just got to do it. I mean, I wasn't as brave as these guys. Like, I was like, no, that's too scary. So I started with, sketch writing, improv, taking classes. And that was my way in, was like, I need to just feel the stage first with a group. I need support. And then I, was able to lose everybody. The way. I was like, no, actually, I think I got this. But yeah, and I feel like now, like, it's easier. I sound all viejita, like they have it easy now. Like, because now, like, y'all, you gotta just post TikToks or whatnot. Like, I have friends like opening for people that are famous on TikTok, have never performed on stage in their life. I'm like, what the fuck are they gonna do? Like 30 minutes of a dance, So it's wild because, there's no one way to start. You just got to put yourself out there.
I just want to add, just try. Like, it's okay to fail. Like, it's, I feel like teachers have a leg up because we're so used to, like, talking shit to kids. I also think just, trying, and Vanessa's right. I've opened up for so many TikTok stars, and it's humbling as hell.
Well, do you guys have any final thoughts on comedy, the status of comedy, anything like that?
Man, I just want us to, like, I just want to see more of myself. I'm excited. Chris Estrada is doing really great stuff. This Fool, I got to work with him recently, and I love that show. Like, if you haven't seen This Fool on Hulu, support him, man. Like, watch that. Season 2 in July. But I'm not on the show, but I like it when brown people are on there. And, I just think that I want to see myself, and that's why I do this. And it's just really important for me coming off stage and, having some, like, girl that maybe in high school would want to fight me would come up and be like, yo, I knew what you were saying about that dude. I'm like, hell yeah, I like that connection. So yeah, I just want to see more of us.
I would say, listen to, when you're bummed out. Listen to comedy, man. Nothing like pulls you out of like your favorite comic. You know, whoever you think just really cracks you up, man. If you're bummed out, just throw on an album and you know, when you're washing dishes, it's the best time in the world.
I agree. I love watching comedy specials. When I was little, I would watch Def Comedy Jam, all the HBO specials, Kathy Griffin, Margaret Cho, Martin Lawrence. My older brother was showing me those, and I was like, okay, I'll watch with you. This is Eddie Murphy, Delirious and stuff.
Love it.
Yeah. And I just feel like I know all of you here right now, like all of y'all laugh with your family all the time and clown on each other, make fun of each other, and there's always the funny one of the group. So why not expand it?
Share the love.
Yeah, share the love.
Make mom cry.
Exactly. Don't be scared of your mom.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming out to the TPR Creekside Comedy Special. Big round of applause again for the 3 comedians. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.